Here we are with Maven. Maven, talk to me a little about your predictions going into this. How are things coming out?
So far, so good. I actually think I've gotten the groups entirely correct. If Minnesota beats Seattle, I would have been 4 for 4 for who was coming out of groups. I think the only pick that was a little bit maybe unexpected was Optic. I actually thought Optic were going to get to a final, which is possible now. They just have to go through Dallas, which I think is feasible for them. It seems they're finally coming alive. But so far, I think this event is going pretty much how I expected it, to be honest.
Have you been able to wear the clothes you wanted to in this weather? We saw you on contesting the point. You were all dressed and ready for the weather here in LA.
I had like a Hawaiian shirt on, right? I looked awesome. Yeah, no, I'm like a 40-year-old. I'm 35 years old, and they sometimes dress me like a child, but I was feeling good. No, I love LA. I lived in Santa Monica for 3 years. I grew up in Northern California. It's amazing to be out here. The traffic stinks, but thankfully we don't have to go very far. But if I'm ever a very wealthy man, I will be moving back to LA. It's incredible out here.
Well, if you move back, you might actually have a home team here to support as well. But having to choose between the two. But yesterday we saw them play. What was your takeaway from the LA versus LA?
At first, it was like, wow, these amateur players and this Gorillas team, they look to be really improved, and Optic are still struggling. But by the time it was all said and done, that looked like a 5-0 win for Optic. They should have won the first 2 maps. They blew a 5-2 lead. They blew an 80-point lead in Hardpoint, and then they came alive over the final 3 maps. It's hard to discredit Gorillas or say much about them because they swapped 60% of their roster coming in. I think everyone thinks they're going to get better. They just didn't have a lot of time, and that's why that big of a change before their home event kind of surprised me. For Optic, I don't know that particular series did a lot for me. It showed they obviously had that comeback ability and they believed in themselves to do it, but you learned a lot more from the Minnesota series. They came out and hammered Minnesota, a team that is very good. Optic might be back.
Well, you mentioned the change in Aches. We also saw some other changes happen on some other teams. How important are those, and how critical are those as we go throughout the season, and how impactful are they on these teams?
It's huge. It's just hard to say right now because it's one series, and we just don't know how it's going to go. I mean, Seattle's look kind of better, but I don't think it's as much on Panders. Like aBeZy stepped up. Octane was an absolute god. The young guys on Grills, we're still going to see what they're going to be able to do. Pharaoh could have a more permanent position with this Mutineers team. We'll see what's going on with Pristini, but I think this is going to more trend towards regular sports where we see subs start to have an impact. We see more changes happen over the course of the year. It's just really hard to tell who's going to be positive and who's going to be negative at this point because we're seeing a handful of maps. I don't know.
Are we getting a good read, you think, on this eight teams showing up at the event, 4 teams at home? Are we really getting to see who can compete with who and what rosters are lining up well?
I think we're starting to get to that point. I think it was difficult after 2 events, but after this, I think you are going to kind of know power rankings where people slot in. But it's interesting because at first I didn't love that all 12 teams weren't here, but now I've really started to enjoy it because these little storylines that it creates and matchups that you might not see otherwise. And the other thing is, like, if you are one of the better teams, or even a mid-tier team, and you get a quote-unquote easier group, easier event, you have to take advantage of that. Like, you have to get points then because you never know around the corner how difficult your group is going to be. Like, look at the groups right now. Like, A is a lot easier looking than B, but you have to take advantage of those moments because you're gonna have tough groups, you're gonna have easy groups. You got to get the points when you can get them because it's probably gonna be separating between 8th and 9th. I mean, it might be like 10, 20 points. I don't think it's gonna be a lot. You have to get the points when you can.
What about those moments when we'll finally get to see FaZe and Empire and Huntsman all at the same event, and who gets FaZe first? I mean, what's going to happen there?
Well, that's what I thought was kind of crazy because after Atlanta, we knew that you weren't going to have Huntsman at this event. At Dallas, you don't have FaZe, and then at Chicago, they're both there. So Chicago, we already know tickets are sold out. 7,000 fans over 2 days. We know everyone's looking forward to that rematch. So by only having the 8 teams, it kind of sets up for this epic rematch to go down, this epic match to go down in Chicago. I think everyone's looking forward to that. And I kind of like that it's sort of been put on the back burner for a little while. Like, let's build these other brands, build these other teams. Let's let the Juggernauts fight it out in Chicago.
Talk about the Juggernauts FaZe possibility to win a back-to-back here. Do you expect that? I mean, from what they're showing?
I think anyone that doesn't expect that is an idiot. They are the best team. I think they're clear number 1 by a wide margin for me right now. Can they lose? Yes. I think if we've learned anything by their 5-game series with Minnesota or Huntsman losing to Florida at the last event, like, this is a very competitive league. It's single elimination once we get to bracket. Anyone can be upset. But you would be just so off base if you didn't think FaZe is the best team and they're going to win this weekend.
Well, you've been casting a long time. You've seen a lot of great players, a lot of great teams. You've even been around for the Optic era. Yeah. And now we have this FaZe. Is this the best team we've ever seen, the most controlled team we've ever seen?
No, I don't think you can say that yet. Talk to me a year from now, and we'll see what that looks like. But I've thrown the word dynasty around because I think the potential is there. They're not even close to that word yet, but when you think about how young their core is, when you think about the fact that they were the first team formed the CDL, how they're all friends, how they wanted the team together, how it doesn't appear that egos are going to get in the way, and the fact with RJ and Crowder they have such a good coaching core. I talked about this in our podcast, Hard Points, but it feels like the only thing that can beat them is themselves. Like if egos get in the way when contract re-ups come around, if they can control that stuff, this should be a very, very, very scary team. Simp and aBeZy will go down as the greatest sub-duo in the history of Call of Duty. Like this, they're nasty, man.
Well, lastly, I got to ask you, talk about being nasty. You and TP were recently on the Eavesdrop podcast, having a good time, getting crazy on there as well. But you guys are the Break Time Boys. You got the Break Time Boys going out there. I'm a Break Time fan myself. So I got to ask you, how critical is it that we hear something soon on this BR that we all know we all want so much?
Well, that's what's been weird about it. Like, there's always the rumors about when it's coming out and stuff, but the fact we haven't seen like anything official has been kind of crazy. But I think for me, just because I have personally enjoyed streaming Blackout of the BR more than playing pubs and stuff, because it's just, for me, it's more fun to interact with the chat. There's crazy storylines within each game. So me, I desperately want it. Like, I need to see more. I want to know what's going on. We've all heard the leaks and stuff, but where's something official? I need the game to come out because my life is going to end. Because when I get back, I mean, I put in all the time and the hours here for the commentary side, but when I get back, I'm putting in like 12 to 15-hour days on the stream side as well. So I'm trying to sleep as much as I can at the event. I'm talking 11 hours a night. So when I get back, I just put my body and brain in the blender and just go hard with the BR. So hopefully it's out in the next couple of weeks and the BTB boys will be grinding away.
Well, best of luck to the BTB boys. Thanks so much, Maven, for today.